Hey everybody, welcome to Spikey Saturday number 65 on the Mana League. I'm John as always, and it's time for the first draft recap from Oath of the Gatewatch. This was my first F&M on release day. At the back of the pack, we've got Tyrant of Valakut. Womp womp. I don't think it's super good. It's so expensive, and it's one of those cards that is literally bad if you don't surge it. And if you do surge it, it gets a bit better. So I start going through the uncommons. We've got a Warping Whale, Pyromancer's Assault, Chitinous Cloak. Still nothing much there. Tar Snare, Isolation Zone. Hey, removal gets pushed to the front for sure. Loam Larva, Kozilek Streaker, Alpha Protector, Eldrazi Aggressor, comparative analysis. So I'm really looking at three different removal spells here. Reality Hemorrhage, Tar Snare, or Isolation Zone. Isolation Zone hits the most things. White has some pretty spicy cards in it, so I do decide to go for that Isolation Zone. Coming from the left, I get Dazzling Reflection, Consuming Sinkhole, Searing Light gets pushed to the front. Hey, more removal, and it's in the color I am. Another Tar Snare, Zulaport Chain Mage, maybe that gets pushed to the front. Gravity Negator, I like that, and Visions of Brutality. Back there we had Needle Spires, not a super big fan of Needle Spires, so I'm really going between the Visions of Brutality or the Gravity Negator. Basically deciding, do I want to go blue-white, do I want to go blue-black? I push it to the front, I think about, hey, do I want $3? Not terribly. I'd rather win some packs instead. I really went back and forth here on the blue-black or the blue-white plan. Of course, I don't want to be too married to my first picks anyways, but I do go for the Gravity Negator. It did a lot of work for me at the pre-release, and blue-white flyers is a pretty good thing. I think it's one of the decks that really fully survived from Battle for Zendikar. Next up, we've got Drug Auxiliary. There's a Jwar Isle Avenger, which pushes to the front, and Expedition Raptor as well. Not much else going on in the pack, really. It's kind of between Jwar or Expedition Raptor. And I know a lot of people had really hyped up Jwar Isle Avenger, so I push it to the front. I still don't know about Surge. I still think it's kind of a thing that happens sometimes, and when it does, it's kind of cool. I get a bit of a discount. But otherwise, I need the card to be good by itself. And Jwar Isle's fine by itself, if a little bit expensive. So I do end up taking it. I think it was a better choice than the Expedition Raptor. Next up, we've got a Cultivator Drone right on top. That seems nice enough to me. There's another Jwar Isle Avenger, another Expedition Raptor. I wasn't super sold on the first Jwar Isle Avenger, so I didn't really want the second one. I didn't want to go all in on it, so I did just take the Cultivator Drone. Get some colorless mana. I've got the Gravity Negator already that I need to spend on it, so fine pick, I think. Next pack, we've got a Slip Through Space, Core Scythe Master, which I push to the front, a Blinding Drone, which I really like. The tapping is fantastic, so I push that to the front. There's a Stoneforge Masterwork back there, but really I'm looking at the Blinding Drone as really the only pick. Scythe Master maybe could have been a pick, but I like to be a little bit controlly, and I think in a Blue-White Flyers deck, you want those ways to tap down their big ground things, kind of like a Fortified Rampart almost. Doesn't tap it down, but it still blanks something. And then I get a pack with a Reflector Mage on top. I'm already leaning towards blue-white, and there's a Reflector Mage on top. Snap pick. Nothing else in that pack was even slightly worth it. Reflector Mage is just amazing. So we follow up that amazing pick with, what do we got here? Cinder Barons and a Gate. A Wastes. Push the Waste to the front. I have a Gravity Negator. I have a Blinding Drone. I might actually need a Waste, and yeah, I decided to take a Waste from that pack, because really it was between that or the Negate, and I think the Waste was just a better choice there. It's not a card that I want to spend picks on, but when I need to, I will do it. Next pack, we've got ourselves a fair bit of green, Zulaport Commando, or Zada's Commando rather, back there at the back. Not much going on here, really, to be honest. Alpha Protector is the only card that fits in blue-white, so I take it. It's kind of like a mini Fortified Rampart. This pack, we've got a foil Spawnbinder Mage. Again, the only card that goes in, and holy red-green, and that's going to be a theme for this pack, is just non-stop red-green. But I take the Spawnbinder Mage because, hey, it's the card that fits my deck. It's another tapper. I'm not quite on the allies plan just yet. I've got the one ally in Alpha Protector, but maybe I can go sort of blue-white flyer allies, perhaps. Next pack, we've got an Ancient Crab, a Bone Saw, another Alpha Protector. I take the Ancient Crab. I figure, hey, it might be a decent sideboard card. Hopefully I get enough ground stuff to clog up the ground, but if I need more, I can decide in an Ancient Crab. I'm not going to main deck it, though. Next pack, we've got not much of anything. Pyromancer's Assault, Aggressor, Larva, After Protector. After Protector is the only card that goes in my deck. I've already got one. I don't think I want to play two, but I take that one. Next pack, we've got Consuming Sinkhole, Cinder Hellion, and something in green. I think it was a Pulse Marasa. Take the Cinder Hellion. It's the only card that somebody should probably play, so I don't super want to have that on the other side of the battlefield. Final two picks, we've got a Dazzling Reflection and a green card that I didn't even see there, so I take the Dazzling Reflection. And then a last pick, Zada's Commando, which seems really weird, and red is clearly open, because that should not be a last pick in any way, shape, or form. All right, time for pack number 2. I don't quite have all the blue-white flyers I want, but I can try to get there. Pack number 2, we've got an Eldrazi Obligator at the back. Step Glider seems fine. Prophet of Distortion seems fine. I push both of those to the front. Expedition Raptor seems fine. Push that to the front. Blinding Drone, Holdout Settlement, Negate, Searing Light. Really kind of, I debate going red here for a second, actually. I think about the Obligator, but... And maybe I should have. Red was so super open. But I kind of go between the Step Glider, the Expedition Raptor. Prophet of Distortion's good, but I don't quite want to first pick it. It's really between the Step Glider and the Expedition Raptor. Now, unfortunately, I want a Raptor. I want something with support to make the Glider turn on. But ultimately, the Glider is a 2/4 Vigilance flyer, which is fine even if I don't get the counters. So I do go with that as my pack 2 pick one. Coming from the left, I get... Allied Reinforcements on top, Ondu War Cleric, another Blinding Drone, Oath of Gideon. Not too much going on in this pack, unfortunately. It's really kind of between the Allied Reinforcements or the Ondu War Cleric. Again, two cards that kind of want to go together. I don't really have the cohort mechanics. I have the Spawnbinder Mage, and that's about it. But 2 2/2s for 4 is fine enough, so I do take the Allied Reinforcements. Next pack, we've got a blue rare. It's Hedron alignment, though. We've got a McKindy Aeronaut, which I push to the front. I don't know why. I always think it's a 2/2 like Shadow Glider, but it's definitely a 1/3. But then I see a Containment Membrane back there at the back of the pack, and it seems pretty darn solid. Another Prophet of Distortion. I kind of want one of those at some point, but not over removal. Containment Membrane's weak removal, but removal nonetheless, so I do take it. Next pack, we've got Cinder Hellion, Core Sky Climber, Stoneforge Acolyte. I put the Sky Climber on the front, but hey, there's a Sweep Away. I love me some Sweep Away. Bounce is just amazing. There's a Seer's Lantern that I briefly think about, but no, I'm going to take Sweep Away every time. Next pick, we've got, hey, Dimensional Infiltrator. I like that card. It gave me a lot of good benefit at the pre-release, so I just snap take it. There was a Void Crash, I think it was called at the back, but I don't super want to play a cancel in this format, so I just take the fancy flashy rare. Next pack, we've got another Sweep Away, and then a Mighty Leap and Abstruse Interference, but I mean, I'm going to take the second Sweep Away every time too. Such a good card. Next pack, we've got another Prophet of Distortion, another Ancient Crab, another After Protector. This time, I take the Prophet of Distortion. I showed to the store owner who was sitting beside me, Garrett, the person I was passing to, had been commenting on just how many Prophet of Distortions he'd been getting. And I knew, because I passed most of them. But finally, I was going to deny him a Prophet of Distortion and take one for my own. Next up, we've got a Warden of Geometries, a Searing Light, Slip Through Space, a Waste, the Unity of Purpose, I think it's called. So I kind of pushed the Warden of Geometries to the front eventually, I think. Anyways, maybe. Actually, I think I pushed the Waste to the front. But then I'm not sure why I'm not pushing the Wardens to the front right away. It's the card that I pick, and I feel like it's the clear pick here. I've got the Blinding Drone, I've got the Prophet of Distortion, I've got the Gravity Negator. I know I need colorless mana, and why not get a 2/3 Vigilance to make my colorless mana instead of a Waste? There we go. I finally pushed to the front, and that is the card that I take. Next up, we've got ourselves a Submerged Boneyard, Dazzling Reflection, a Slip Through Space. Not much else going in this pack. I'd take the Slip Through Space. Maybe I'll want to get some creatures through. I don't know. Probably won't play it, but I have it now. And we follow that up with, hey, more red-green and a Stoneforge Acolyte and a Comparative Analysis. So Comparative Analysis seems like the only pick here for me. It's getting way too late to go into another color. Those red and green cards are not making me want to go into it. I read Acolyte a couple more times just to confirm, yeah, it's in fact just awful. And I just take the Comparative Analysis. Getting near the end, we've got Consuming Sinkhole, Negate, Kozilek's Pathfinder. Around this point, I realized, hey, I could probably use some win conditions and some more creatures. So the Pathfinder really kind of ends up being what I decided to take. Because, hey, a 5/5 that hopefully can be unblockable-ish or chump blockable at best seems pretty decent to me. Down to the last 3 cards, we've got an Ancient Crab, a Witness at the end, and a Boulder Salvo. I don't really want another Ancient Crab. Maybe I hate out the Boulder Salvo, because that could kill some things. Yeah, let's do it. Let's hate out that Boulder Salvo. Next up, we've got Hedron Alignment. Yeah, why not? Let's rare draft as the third last pick there. Why not? And then I get a last pick, Stoneforge Acolyte. And I just realized in rewatching these videos that I got a pack of 3 followed by a pack of 3 followed by a pack of 1. So something messed up on the other end of the table somewhere. I'm going to have to reinforce zone drafting to everybody at my store. For those of you who don't know zone drafting, I'll go over this while I wait for the next pack to be opened. Zone drafting is a great way to keep your draft running smoothly without mistakes like that happening. If you're not playing at competitive level and timing your drafts and making sure that everybody passes at the same time and all that kind of stuff, if you're just at your store, the best thing you can do is make sure that you do not ever pass a pack if there's a pack beside you waiting to be picked up already. Please do that. It helps out. Pack number 3, we're back into Battle for Zendikar. We've got a Barrage Titan as our rare. Core Blade Whirl goes kind of to the front. I've got some allies going on. I wouldn't mind trying to explore that theme a little bit, seeing if I can anyways. There's not much else going on. There's a Sheer Drop and a Shadow Glider, both of which are fine. There's a Blighted Step that I really kind of considered, but I wanted to take the uncommon, get that First Strike Rally trigger, and take the Core Blade Whirl. Next pick, we've got a Channeler and Anticipate. Both of those can stay on the front. Hey, Fortified Rampart I just saw go by there. Green Warden of Marasa got passed. I was mildly excited to see a Mythic for a second being passed to me, and I forgot that, yeah, it used to be worth some money, and now it's worth like $1.55. Absolutely horrid. So really it's between Smite the Monstrous, Shadow Glider, and Fortified Rampart here, I think. I pushed the Fortified Rampart to the front because, you know what, I still don't really have a great win condition. My win condition is kind of getting in with 2/2 flyers, you know, a couple of them, and Fortified Rampart is going to be part of that game plan. Next up, we've got a Foil Plains, Tide Drifter as well. What else is in this pack? This is the pack. Ghostly Sentinels in this pack. So after the draft, I was so confused because I swore I took a Tide Drifter. But no, I clearly took that Ghostly Sentinel. I could have taken the Foil Plains and gotten, you know, $6, $7 worth of value, but getting a card that actually lets me, you know, win was much more important there than taking a foil basic land. And I'm pretty happy with that Ghostly Sentinel in retrospect. I needed an attacking creature. As nice as Tide Drifter is, just having another flyer was probably the better choice anyways. Next up, we've got a Sanctum of Ugin. What else? A Smite the Monstrous. That can go to the front. Courier Griffin. Hey, we need that, so that can go to the front too. I need flyers. I've got a lot of bounce. I don't have hard removal, but Smite the Monstrous isn't really great hard removal. It's really more of a sideboard card. I'm never terribly happy to main deck it. Courier Griffin, on the other hand, is just totally going to go in my deck. The 2 life, the 2/3 flyer. I may not have a big win condition. I may not have a Sphinx of the Final Word, but maybe I can just get in for 2 damage in the air off of multiple creatures, and that is a win condition. So I'm really struggling with this decision more than I recall. Maybe just in retrospect, it seems like such an obvious pick to take the Courier Griffin. Take the Courier Griffin. Take the Courier Griffin. Do it. Do it. There we go. Take the Courier Griffin into my deck. Totally going to main deck that and be pretty happy with it, I think. Next up, we've got Anticipate, Tightening Coils. Hey, that goes into the front. Another Fortified Rampart. That can go to the front. A Blighted Step. That can go to the front. So decent stuff here. Stuff that I really kind of like. Tightening Coils and Fortified Rampart arguably do similar things, with Tightening Coils being a little bit more versatile than the Fortified Rampart do it. So I do decide to take that. Next up, getting near the end of the draft, we've got an Adverse Conditions, which I'm pretty darn happy to see, and literally nothing else in the pack because the entire rest of the pack is red and green. So Adverse Conditions, I'm happy to have it anyways, but it was also the only pick in that pack. Next up, we've got a whole bunch of red and green. Literally a pack of nothing but red and green. And decent red and green at that. Lifespring Druid, McKinney Slide Runner, Undo Champion, Reckless Cohort's fine enough. There's a Dutiful Return is the only thing that wasn't red or green in this pack. There's literally nothing for me here. I need to hate something. I guess I take the Undo Champion because 4 will kill a lot of my things. Next pack, we've got a Rush of Ice. A Cryptic Cruiser seems decent to me. I don't have too much way of exiling outside the Infiltrator, but fine enough pick. A 3/3 for 4 can go in my deck. I need a few more creatures anyways, I think. Down to the last few picks, we've got Kite Sail Scout as the only white card. Again, more red-green. Reckless Cohort, Unnatural Aggression, Natural Connection. There's a Slab Hammer. I figure, I guess I'll take the Slab Hammer. I don't want to see any Slab Hammer shenanigans going on. And hey, look at what we have here. Another pack of red and green plus a black. Yeah, just again, literally nothing here. This draft is over for me, so I take the Sure Strike because I don't want combat tricks, I suppose. 4 picks left. We've got a Kite Sail Scout. Fine, I'll take it. I don't want it. I don't want to play it. May as well just throw it out, but I'll take it. 3 picks left, and yes, the draft is over for me. Red, red, or red. I take the best red card out of the pack of nothing but red. 2 picks left. Hey, a blue card. Holy moly, let's take it. Maybe I want a sideboard and a Dispel, who knows, and pass a last pick Tunneling Geopede, as ridiculous as that sentence was. And then let's finish this draft off with, whoa, a blue card. A terrible blue card, but a blue card nonetheless. At least it wasn't red. That was the draft format. Let's take a look at what I built. So let's take a look at the deck, and I'm going to try something new here. I'm going to actually do the cards as pictures on the video as opposed to doing a video of the cards. I think sometimes the video was a bit hard to see. It depends if my lighting was good or not. Let me know if you prefer the cards being on screen like this. I know they're going to be a little bit small in order for me to fit them all on, or if you preferred the actual camcorders in the comments below. But up first in the 1-drop slot, I had a Prophet of Distortion, and it was pretty fine. I drew a lot of cards off this guy. I think late game, he is really, 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 really solid. Obviously, you do not want this in an aggressive deck. Even in a mid-range deck, you probably don't want it. But if you are going to go even a little bit late or clog up the game in any way, I think it is pretty solid. In the 2-drop creature slots, I had the Core Blade Whirl, which didn't do too much work, really. Fortified Rampart was fantastic, of course, as it always was in Blue-White Flyers. Blinding Drone was pretty good. I didn't actually tap down too much. I didn't actually see this card all that often. Dimensional Infiltrator, on the other hand, is just fantastic. Flashing that in, getting in for attacks on turn 3, a 2/1 flyer, just awesome. And the exiling ability is great to fuel processors, although I didn't have any processors. But we'll talk about Dimensional Infiltrator and its exiling ability a little bit later. But yeah, just being able to defend itself potentially if you hit a land is just fantastic. Really happy with Dimensional Infiltrator. And down to the 2-drop slot spell slot, we had Tightening Coils, which is always good. In the 3-drop slot, we're looking at some filler and then a good thing. Afro Protector, just totally filler. Yeah, it could have triggered the Core Blade Whirl, but big whoop. Ancient Crab did end up making the cut. Just barely. I just wanted something else that was big on the ground. This cut out the Cryptic Cruiser. I ultimately decided Cryptic Cruiser, without having any sort of really reliable exiling, was just going to be a 3/3 for 4, and I wanted to be way more defensive, so I did in fact go for the Ancient Crab. Cultivator Drone was a great source of colorless mana, because everything that I wanted colorless mana for was colorless, was devoid, was activated abilities. Yeah, rarely, I think one time I wanted to cast something and wasn't able to cast it with this because it wasn't colorless, but all in all, Cultivator Drone is pretty solid. Reflector Mage, on the other hand, is just amazing. Absolutely demoralizes your opponent. So happy with Reflector Mage. It's going to continue to be a very high pick for me. And in the 3-drop spell slot, we had Containment Membrane, which was decent here and there. Again, it's a huge downside that it doesn't tap the creature, but double Sweep Away was fantastic. Sweep Away is just huge. I can't believe I got 2 of them. In the 4-drop creature slot, we've got Courier Griffin, which is just a fine flyer. It gets you 2 life. That 2 life was kind of relevant here or there. It's just nice to have, but a 2/3 flyer for 4 is fantastic. Warden of Geometries, just like the Cultivator Drone, was pretty solid, except this one could actually get me mana for anything, so it did in fact ramp me a little bit. And a little bit more reliably. And I used to be able to get in now and then before my opponent would get something down on the board. Very frequently, this just gets outclassed and you can't really attack with it, but the times that you can are just a nice added added value. Gravity Indicator wasn't as fantastic as it was in pre-release, partly because I just didn't see it all that often, but it did get me in for a win here or there. In the 4-drop spell slot, we've got Adverse Conditions, which is great in a tempo deck, in a deck where I want to live long enough to just keep hitting for 2 or 4 in the air. Allied Reinforcements was good at going wide. There was a couple of times where that just won me the game because I had more creatures and was able to get in for lethal. And Isolation Zone is Oblivion Ring, and it was just super, super, super good. We all know that. The 5-drop slot is nothing but creatures and decent creatures. Jarwile Avenger, I never surged it, but it was just a totally serviceable 3/3 for 5. If I could have surged it, would have been really nice to get it out early, but you know, at best you're going to get it out a turn early unless you're using Bonesaw, and that would just be stupid. Step Glider did nothing for me because I had no way of making counters, or its ability did nothing for me. It was a 2/4 Vigilance Flyer. It was great. It got in for damage. It stopped attacks pretty solidly for most of them. And Ghostly Sentinel, of course, is just good in blue-white flyers, as we all know. And finally, the lone 6-drop is Kozilek's Pathfinder, which of course was my win condition, my way of getting through. I cast it one single time in the entire night, and all it did was kind of delay the game. Had I cast it, I'm sure it would have been a lot better, but I just cast it that single time. I didn't even see it the other times, unfortunately. And I played my single copy of Wastes. I had more than enough colorless sources. I was never hurting for colorless. I always was able to activate things. Never really had an issue there with the Wastes of the Warden and the Cultivator and the Scion off the Adverse Conditions. And then I did a 9-7 split of Islands and Plains. So just before I get to how the night went, I just wanted to say that, as you all know from the intro of this video, this was hosted at the Gamers Emporium, which is my local game store here in London, Ontario. It's at Oxford and Wonderland. If you're from the area, know the area, coming through the area, taking a trip around the world to see Magic stores, you should definitely stop in at our store. It's a great group of people. We do Friday night drafts every single week. We do really fun events, cube drafts almost every week. We do a sealed league every new set. Tons of great stuff going on there, so definitely check out the Gamers Emporium at Wonderland and Oxford in London, Ontario, Canada. But let's find out how we did. So how'd the night go? Well, this was a 10-person pod, so we had 4 rounds. First round, I was up against Garrett, who was drafting right beside me, to my right. He went basically mono blue draw cards with a splash for black for O-Strike and Essence Depleter. Tons of draw abilities and spells. He had 3 Prophet of Distortions, a Coastal Discovery, Comparative Analysis. He was going to draw into anything he needed. I believe Ruin Processor was his win condition, or one of his win conditions, but not too many creatures, and I was able to just kind of fly through the air. I just got stuff over his head. Every time Ruin Processor came down, I was able to Isolation Zone it, or Tightening Coils it, or otherwise basically put it out of commission. And I won that match fairly handily, 2-0. Match number 2, I was up against Evan, who was playing Grixis Colorless. Just amazing stuff. Had a Herald of Kozilek, which I think is basically the luckiest you can get in draft now. First picking Herald of Kozilek was certainly a thing in Battle for Zendikar, but being blue-red and being pretty colorless and then getting a Herald of Kozilek in pack 3 just seems incredible. He flooded the board with creatures, and I couldn't get things down fast enough. I was just totally steamrolled. 0-2 in that match, just destroyed really quick too, in like, I think it was maybe 10 minutes for the 2 games. Match 3, I was 1-1. I was up against Riley, who was playing green and black. Very tough fought games here. He flooded the board all the time. He actually got not just full value off of Gladeheart Cavalry. He supported 6, but he actually had to make a choice because he had 7 creatures on the board at that point. I had a fair number of creatures as well, and they were holding off his. They were a lot of 2/2s and 3/1s and Scions and things like that. So my creature base was holding him off. We did have to go to 3, however, but I was able to pull it out as he just couldn't handle flyers. So the game that I lost, I didn't get any flyers, and I lost. But the game that I won, I had flyers. Finally, match number 4, I was 2-1. I was playing for some sort of placement. It was a weird final round. We had a few drops from the pod. A few people had to run, and we had, I believe, a draw. And basically, there was going to be a ton of people at either 2-2 or 3-1, depending on how everything worked out. There were a lot of pair downs. Weird final round. But I was up against Adam, who was playing red-green landfall / cohort ping. He had Tunneling Geopede, he had Zada's Commando, and just a ton of tiny little aggressive things. Very tough game 1 loss. Game 2 was very, very, very grindy, however, but I managed to establish a board presence. I had 2 4s, I had 1 4s, I had 2 3s, and they just totally stonewalled his 2 2s. He couldn't really attack in. And so the game was going to go really, really long. I had a bunch of flyers, but he had a freaking Netcaster Spider. The absolute bane of my deck. I could not do anything against that Netcaster Spider. So what did I do? I asked him to count how many cards he had in his library, because I had a Dimensional Infiltrator. And I milled. And I milled. And I milled, and I eventually milled him out off of Dimensional Infiltrator. I started doing 1 a turn at the end of his turn, and then I got a second colorless source, so I started doing 2 a turn, and by the end I was doing 3 a turn, and I milled him out off of Dimensional Infiltrator. Most fun win ever. Really, really, really fun, really grindy game. The final game of that match, Adam unfortunately got stuck on nothing but green mana and only 3 of them, whereas I went flyer, flyer, bounce your creature, flyer, bounce your creature, flyer, bounce your creature, and finished that game up very rapidly. So I finished up 2-1 in that match, giving me a 3-1 overall record. Some of the pair downs lost, and so I actually managed to get second place off of my 3-1 record. We had one person who was 4-0. Laura took down our draft pod 4-0 with a disgusting green, white, black life gain / cohort / disgusting deck. But I got 3-1, got second place, got myself 3 packs, and some foil promos of a terrible promo card. This month is not a good F&M promo. But yeah, it was a really fun first draft. I'm not super happy with my deck. I think I was really missing out on win conditions. But Blue-White Flyers, of course, doesn't have any specific win conditions. It just has 2/2 flyers, and 2/2 flyers will get you there. If you have 2/2 flyers down, you're in fantastic shape, as long as there's not a Netcaster Spider on the other side of the battlefield. I had enough bounce, and I had enough ways of just kind of tempoing out my opponent that things were just going to really kind of get there. Reflector Mage is absolutely incredible. Love it. Sweep Away, super love that spell. It's just so good. Dimensional Infiltrator, I can be happy that I milled somebody out in a game with it, which is not really what it's designed to do. But boy, is that card resilient. In that match where I did mill him out, he tried to plummet it twice. He plummeted it, and then he got plummet back off of Green Warden to Marasa, and both times it was kind of like, I'm going to try, and I'm going to, exile the card and see if it's a land. And both times I hit a land, so I was able to bounce it back to my hand. Really, really, really do like Dimensional Infiltrator. It's just, it's fantastic. But so overall, the format definitely has changed. Rally, gone. It was just so non-existent, especially when there were, maybe 3 different decks that were snapping up Rally creatures just because they're fine creatures. Rally really seems to be just not there. Scions were not really kicking around. There was one green deck that Marco was playing that I didn't play, so I didn't see too much of, but I saw him with like 3 Scions at one point. But beyond that, Scions weren't really kicking around. I think I saw 1 card get awakened. The Battle for Zendikar mechanics are very gone. They are just sort of a bonus now. There's no synergies. There's no building around those Battle for Zendikar mechanics. The one that I think is the strongest is the just sort of colorless matters, just like in Oath of the Gatewatch. So the Grixis colorless deck that I lost to was really solid, just because getting things that say your colorless spells cost 1 less to cast, or your colorless creatures have +1/+0, or your colorless creatures have +0/+1, are still really solid because it's such a huge theme in the new set. But those old mechanics are just kind of crippled. The format seems, and don't take this as the gospel truth, don't take this as what the set's going to be like in 3 weeks. But at least for the first week, the set seemed to really lend itself to board stalls and wide boards. I don't know if that's a function of the set or just a function of, players playing bad cards, being a little bit conservative, the usual kind of, early format stuff that happens. But if it does shake out, that means that aggro might be a little bit worse for wear, because 1/4s and 2/4s block most aggressive decks. But it was super fun. Really great way to start my first FNM of Oath of the Gatewatch with a 3-1 place, second place record. Definitely let me know how you guys did in the comments below. How did your drafts go? Have you drafted yet? If not, why haven't you drafted? It is actually a really fun set. For the hesitancy that I had about the set, I think it has kind of gone away. I do like the set as a draft format. I'm still totally out on most of the mechanics. You'll hear that a million times over. But I do still think the set is fine enough as a draft format. Let me know what you think of the draft format in the comments below. As always, if you have any questions, comments, or suggestions, you can find me on Twitter at @TheManaLeak. That's LEEK, like the vegetable, not the card. And you can also find me on Facebook at facebook.com/TheManaLeak. You've already found me here on YouTube. You've got the comment section down below. Please make use of that, as I said. If you enjoy my videos, click the like button, the little thumbs up icon, and also subscribe so that you can see the latest videos as they come out. The Crackback Tuesdays, the Wacky Wednesdays, the Spikey Saturdays, the Top 10 Thursdays. There will be a box opening tomorrow. You want to see when those videos go up, so make sure you do subscribe. But as always, if you have any questions, comments, or suggestions, let me know. Otherwise, I will see you all next time.